a topic core to every finance person's heart: budgeting.
Oh.
Everyone's doing budgeting. I've got quite strong views on budgeting.
Yeah.
And firstly, budgeting is not planning.
Exactly.
So
I think people don't appreciate that.
No. So what's budgeting?
Well, if you think about it, a financial plan is basically the financial representation of what you think is going to happen based on your plan, what you're going to do. Your plan is what am I going to do? It's my action plan.
Yeah.
And you produce this financial model that says, if I do that, then this is what the finances will look like. And obviously it's based on certain assumptions, and you can do scenario analysis. And then you come with a best case and a worst case and an expected case and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's a financial plan. It's not the same as a budget, because a budget is actually, it's basically what tells managers how much they can spend. That's a budget.
Yes.
So it's how much can I spend? And so the reason the two get confused is because the budget is often based on a financial plan, or it's a version of the financial plan. But one of the problems is that budget is, if it's a financial plan, obviously if it's the version that you want to give to the salespeople, it's going to have stretching targets in it.
Yeah.
You don't want to use that one because for your budgeting, because that will suggest that we can spend a load more than we probably can.
Yes.
But on the other hand, if it's the conservative side, then it just doesn't work. You can't put a budget into a financial plan.
And it gets set in stone, doesn't it? You spend all this effort to predict a 12-month period, hopefully finish it a couple of months before you start that period, although that's not always the case. So, but we were talking earlier about how fast things are moving nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, how many budgets have you seen that are effectively out of date within the first quarter of the period, which is
all of them?
Exactly. But they're then rigidly adhered to.
Yes.
For the next.
And it's kind of
months.
embarrassing for finance sometimes as well. I found this in the very first budget I ever did. It was a kind of bottom-up version. We got cost center managers contributing the figures for their cost centers. We bashed it around. We sort of squeezed the assumptions on the revenue. By the time we'd finished with it, we were despairing of it. It was like December. It was 5 minutes from the end of the year. Oh, and then we got it approved, and it looked nothing like anything that made sense. And then in January, obviously, then you have to upload the budget to compare your actuals to it.
Yeah.
And there are variances. And then you start having to go back and explain the variances in terms of what you got wrong in the budget.
Yes.
and all the stuff you've been arguing about 2 months ago, which you said didn't make sense. And you go, there you go, it didn't make sense. But the problem is, you then have to explain it in month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5,
month 12
for the rest of the year. So it becomes really depressing having to come up with this same
and so much
explanation.
Wasted effort doing that. You're comparing against something that isn't giving you any value.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't quote me on this, but I believe that budgeting was invented in fact, the civil service in America in about the 1920s to help control government spending.
Yeah.
And it was used as a mechanism there, as a control mechanism.
Yeah.
And it is there as a control mechanism. You need a way to manage and communicate to the business, what can be spent in certain times. But I don't think we would invent, if budgeting hadn't been invented, we wouldn't invent it as it is today. I think what you need is a plan that tells you whether what you achieved with what happened is good enough.
Yeah.
So if your mix of sales is this, and if you opened that office, and if you have this much resource here, then a good profit and good result would look like this.
Yeah.
Compare to that and understand where you were against what should be good.
Yeah.
Don't compare against some static thing created 6 months ago.
No, I think you're right. And I think one of the things people don't appreciate, and I put it like this, budgets control people, not costs.
Yes.
And that's the difference between a financial plan and a budget. The budget is there to control people. It's to say, you are not allowed to spend more than this amount.
Mm.
I mean, one of the other problems is when you say you're not allowed to spend more than, the number of cost center managers that will spend up to that amount, exactly that amount. It's like they could have spent 50% less, but that they had the budget. So
but the perhaps the sales area that they're supporting could have halved or doubled. But they'll still have that as their budget that they have to spend. If their sales have gone through the roof, it's entirely appropriate that they should get more resource or money. Conversely, sales below target, they should be cutting back. So it needs to be much more dynamic.
And I think what we need to understand and what people don't appreciate is that it's very much a cultural thing. Because it's all about decentralizing control.
Absolutely.
So it's all about management control. And that is a very philosophical thing.
It is.
People don't realize that we live so long in the West in this type of business that we take it for granted that we've got cost center managers and we have delegated authority. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
No.
And budgeting comes out of that decentralization. It's how do we empower them to spend what they need to? Because the CEO can't make every spending decision, or the CFO. How do we empower them and give them that discretion without having them overspend or go completely AWOL?
You have to almost give them enough rope to hang themselves, but allow them the latitude to do so. Those people that are interested in this sort of topic and want to explore more, the Beyond Budgeting Institute is a BBI is a good place to go. They've taken this to the nth degree, and they've got some absolutely fabulous case studies, and they do a conference each year in some very nice places. Actually, I keep meaning to go. We're not affiliated in any way with them, but it's I think it's really a topic that's going to come to the fore over the next 10 and 20 years. We can't continue like this with budgeting.
I hope so, because I mean, of all the areas in finance that I've come across, when you think of finance transformation, it's like, why has no one transformed budgeting yet? It's the worst problem in finance. It literally is the worst.
It's the elephant in the room. Budgeting elephant.
Everyone hates it. Why aren't we doing something about it? And I agree with you with Beyond Budgeting. I became fascinated with that in the 90s, and actually, if you want a good introduction to it, Steve Morledge has done a really good little book called The Little Book of Beyond Budgeting. It's fantastic, and it will really give you just an introduction into that concept. I just feel really unfortunate that I've never been in a company that's taken that approach, because I would have loved to see it in real life.
I agree. I hope to see it. It's and as you say, it's cultural. It's not a financial thing. It's a cultural thing. It's about how you manage a business and getting people, trusting people to manage a business and not telling them what to do all the time. Andy, that's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. That's very insightful. It's always a pleasure to talk to somebody with
it's been
experience.
A pleasure for me too.
So absolute delight.